Hi, welcome back to the Ping Pong Flick Show. My name is Chris Wan. This is episode 350 of the Ping Pong Flick Show. Let's get into the first topic of conversation, and this is near and dear to me. Not many people on this channel care for this, but I wanted to include this in anyway because we learned that Warner Brothers were not going to be at the Hall H on Saturday. They're not showing anything except it. But today at Godzilla-movies.com, they're saying that San Diego Comic-Con 2019 is quickly approaching, and during the event, Warner Brothers and Legendary will be presenting a special 1-hour panel dedicated to their Monsterverse, taking place on July 19th between 1 p.m. and 2 p.m. New information will be released concerning next year's Godzilla vs. Kong movie, the next installment in the Monsterverse and sequel to what I believe is the best movie of the year, Godzilla King of the Monsters. Not only that, Toho themselves will also be attending the convention. They'll be setting up a Godzilla booth, booth number 3535 for anybody who wants to attend. Toho's booth will include the following: a fun green screen photo booth for unique social posts, a live mural painting by famed Godzilla artist Shinji Nishikawa, the actual suit used in Godzilla 2000, props from films throughout the franchise's history, a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive Godzilla products, giveaways, photo opportunities, much more gargantuan fun. And for $30, we'll be able to secure the exclusive Godzilla figure, Godzilla Legends, a 2019 convention exclusive. That looks amazing. I mean, if I was a big, which I am, a diehard Godzilla fan, if I could make it to this, I'd probably try to get that. But I can't. But I will, now that I know that they're going to be there, I might do something, a reaction to that. Maybe it is on a Friday, so that makes it kind of difficult. But we'll see what happens with that. But I am incredibly happy to hear that they are going to have a presence there in terms of something to show. Possibly a teaser, possibly a trailer. I know they showed footage at the CinemaCon Europe, I believe, and that content, hopefully they'll show it here, and hopefully they'll show it online. That's what I'm expecting Warner Brothers to do without having a presence at Hall H. Maybe they'll spread that thing throughout the different days of the week. Who knows at this point, but at least Godzilla's going to have a presence. They're going to make a big deal out of it, and hopefully it's going to make a big splash so that a lot more people go to Godzilla vs. Kong when they missed out on Godzilla vs. King, Godzilla King of the Monsters. So that's my Godzilla news of the day. Leading out of that, though, it's an interesting thing. Arron Garza did this cool little Batman v Superman trailer #1 in the style of Godzilla King of the Monsters, and I love it. It's got that music from the Claire de Lune music in there, which was one of my all-time favorite trailers, Godzilla trailer, even a Godzilla trailer actually, of last year. And seeing that trailer just gave me chicken skin. You know, it is a great trailer. It's fantastic. It's awesome. It's epic. And, you know, Arron was able to apply that to Batman v Superman and create an incredible Batman v Superman trailer using that music, using the way he wanted to put it. And I say great job. It just makes me want to go back and watch Batman v Superman once again, and Godzilla King of the Monsters. It's like two movies: Godzilla King of the Monsters, Batman v Superman, and just one of the two best movies in my entire life. They slammed it together, and he created this trailer. Thank you so much, Arron. That was such a treat today. A fantastic 2 minutes and 20 seconds of glorious trailer making. So fantastic job, Arron, for that. Now, since we're talking about the DCEU and DC films, interesting thing about today, probably not surprising to a lot of you. This is coming from the Empire magazine, empireonline.com. I did talk about how Joker had some Empire covers, 2 different distinct Empire covers. Well, more of that article is being put out today. This is titled, Joaquin Phoenix's Joker movie doesn't follow anything from the comics. This is by Ben Travis on the Empire article. Sometimes he's the man beneath the red hood. In some instances, he's a wannabe comedian who took a tumble into a toxic vat of ace chemicals. In Tim Burton's Batman, he's the killer of Bruce Wayne's parents, and soon we're going to get a whole new origin story for one of the most iconic characters of all time. In comics, in films, in popular culture, full stop, in Todd Phillips' Joker. A radical new take on the clown prince of crime inspired by Scorsese and the hard-edged urban cinema of the 1970s. This time, it's Joaquin Phoenix under the happy face makeup and its incarnation that breaks all the rules around the ultimate rule-breaking character. The August 2019 issue of Empire, on sale from Thursday, July 11th, takes a world-exclusive look inside the low-budget, hyper-intense comic book movie, and according to Phillips, it's going to be its own unique beast. We didn't follow anything from the comic books, which people are going to be mad about, the writer-director tells Empire. We just wrote our own version of where a guy like Joker might come from. That's what was interesting to me. We're not even doing Joker, but the story of becoming Joker, it's about this man. That man is Arthur Fleck, a vulnerable, damaged who will eventually, inevitably become the card-carrying psychopathic criminal who strikes out at Gotham City. And for the filmmakers, Phoenix was always the man for the role. I think he's the greatest actor, says Phillips. We had a photo of him above our computer while we were writing. We constantly thought, God, imagine if Joaquin Phoenix actually does this. We won't have to imagine. We'll see the finished film in all its glory in UK cinemas from October 4th. And then there's more if you're able to pick up this issue of Empire. It's going on sale July 11th, Thursday. And here's a little bit more of that Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. So, essentially, it's kind of like what we always they've been telling us about, but we kind of thought maybe they're just playing with us and they're actually kind of connecting in some way. But no, they're not connecting at all. In fact, they're not even gonna bring anything from the comics to apply to this movie. This is their own reimagining of a Joker, and whether that means is the actual continued one-off, we'll decide what happens to the end of the movie. I feel like it's probably going to be a one-off. This is something that Todd Phillips and wanted to do, went to Warner Brothers, Walter, and says, you know what, we're gonna let you do that. It's not going to connect to anything anyway. Go ahead and make your movie. So essentially that. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be fascinating. I think I'm really intrigued to actually see this movie, to see what type of DC movie they can come out with using Joker as the primary, I guess, protagonist, but antagonist at the same time, and what kind of character study they can bring out using this. And are they going to do this for future films? Are they, if this is successful, are they going to go and actually do things, research things like this, kind of do experimental movies like this with other characters, doing one-offs here and there? And perhaps Matt Reeves' The Batman is also that one-off in a way, where it's like a trilogy, that one-off trilogy that they're going to put on the side that's not going to connect to anything. And I think that's fantastic. I think that's something good. I think every director and writers should be able to have an opportunity to do their thing without having to worry about the overall picture. Because right now DCEU overall picture is really, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Shazam. But since it's all multiverse, you can do those things, right? DC is all about multiverse. We can have different versions of it. I would challenge another director to say, hey, you got another story of I don't know, Wonder Woman is not a story of Aquaman. Do the different character or something like that, while still maintaining Gal Gadot to be Wonder Woman. If they're gonna do Batman and they're gonna expand that way and have another Superman, for instance, have Henry Cavill be Superman in this other universe, I would be totally fine with that, because ultimately that's great. That's a great way to get a director-driven films, to get directors involved creatively with the producers and say, hey, I want to make this, but I don't want to be able to just have to be along the lines of this universe. I don't want to be stuck in this universe. I don't want to conform to these things where this character is going to go here or there. I want to be able to tell the story like I want to tell it. And ultimately, if they are Warner Brothers allowing that and actually doing that, I think that's a step in the right direction. And you would say, why, Chris? Why? Don't you want the DCEU, the Snyderverse DCEU? Of course I do. but that's also could be it's contained in its own universe. Meaning, if they're not caring, if Joker or Batman or all these other movies are connecting to something, that means there should not be a problem for the Zack Snyder Justice League, the Snyder Cut Justice League to be released, because they're not worried about canon anymore. There is no canon, there's no connectivity. So why would it matter if Cyborg or Cyborg, Cyborg's father died in the Snyder Cut of Justice League? Why would that matter? Why would any of that matter at that point, right? I mean, I'm just saying. So it would make it much more clear and understanding that releasing the Snyder Cut has nothing to do with canon. Since we're talking about Snyder Cut. This is an update from yesterday where I had about the heart ripped out video I did yesterday, and on the podcast if you're listening to this a little bit more context about the Cyborg photo. So this was on Vero. Zack Snyder had answered a couple questions. Apparently, so we were wrong. The grave is not his mother's grave. It is a family plot, but it's Victor Stone's own grave. So someone asked, Owen Gates asked Zack Snyder on Vero, he says, is this Vic at his own grave? And Zack Snyder said yes. So he's pounding at his own grave, and it's still not clear. I think it's a real life thing. It's actually happened, not a nightmare scene. It could still be a nightmare scene. Who knows what we're seeing there, because it looks very dreamlike in the background and stuff. But that's what Zack Snyder's explaining. It's his grave. It's Victor Stone's grave, not his mother's grave. Now, Andy Bucco also asked this. If he can bring back Clark with the mother box, he could bring back his parents too, right? Zack Snyder answered, his father was disintegrated, and by the time he would have tried to bring back his mother, too much decomposition would have occurred. Remember, Clark doesn't decompose like the rest of us. So he's a little, I wanted to talk about it because a little bit about it. It's just so much how much effort he shows in every little integral part, little information. He has he's thought it out. He thought it out and said, hey, well, if someone ever talked about, well, if they were going to use the mother box to bring back Clark, well, there's got to be a reason. Well, he can't decompose like the rest of us. But that also means, well, can he bring back other people? Well, let's take a step back and think about that information. Well, that's not possible because Clark doesn't decompose like the rest of us. See how much thinking, how much in depth Zack Snyder put in thinking about it. It calls to attention. Sorry, I'm sweating here because it's hot in Hawaii, but summer in Hawaii. But that whole thing, the SnyderCon, where he talks about Flash and how when they thought about how when he goes back in time, it has to be the exact point. So when the Earth rotates, right, and it has to come out that point. And so just him talking about that, you realize how much effort he put into this movie, how much love and care he put into every single information that he think about an answer to every question and every kind of plot point that like this, where the mother box could bring back Clark, why can't he bring back his mother? He thought that through. That's this careful auteur kind of filmmaking, and very that his love and passion, his interest in the film, that he's gotten so involved in it, and it's really sad that Warner Bros. Doesn't see that, how much effort and love into that, and releases Snyder Cut, or even had this released in the begin with, right? And that love also transfers to the actual cinematographer who actually shot that scene, who talked about it. He actually posted on Instagram today the actual behind the scenes look. He says, behind the scenes on Justice League deleted scene, Cyborg at the graveyard, X100F, love that camera, hashtag behind the scenes, hashtag Justice League, hashtag Zack Snyder, hashtag deleted scene, Borg Life, Cyborg cinematography. So showing that that's what the scene looked like, all the green screen and background. Apparently they were able to add in the CG and the post effects on that to create that image that Zack Snyder put out. So a little bit behind the scenes on that, and probably the only reason why he could share that is because Zack Snyder shared that piece. But heartbreaking stuff. But that was just a continuation of yesterday's video in regards to Cyborg. I thought I'd share that, the the context of that shot, and a little bit more info about Fabian Wagner and so on and so forth. So that's Cyborg for that. But the last thing, probably the biggest thing, probably why you clicked on this video, is John Arron put out another article today, or actually yesterday, and I think Film Junkie also talked about this at his site realanarchy.com. The headline is, how much Snyder Cut footage is actually in Justice League? Now, we know John Arron. He's been doing a lot of things with watching Justice League over and over and over. He's also instrumental in the periodic table of Justice League, where I've talked about it many times. Every time a periodic table comes out, I talk about it. It's fantastic stuff. He goes to looking at how Zack Snyder shoots things and how Zack Snyder presents things, and he knows about how Joss shoots things, what type of camera Joss Whedon uses, what type of camera Zack Snyder uses, and able to find what is footage from Joss, what is footage from Zack. He carefully goes through that and puts that on a timeline. I think John Doe Movie Reviews also kind of did that, and he's probably talked about that as well. But John Arron has also done it as well. And this is kind of like his summary of what he found out. So, the Snyder Cut. After cutting up all easily known footage between the two directors, it was time to go through the scenes individually. This meant dissecting the inserted reshoots and dialogue to determine what was what. Sure, Snyder shot 100% principal photography, but we had heard rumors that Joss was literally shooting an entirely different film for reshoots. Boy, should we have listened then. I will say that my figures probably have an error of 3% due to the fact some scenes were hard to place. But I'll also say that even if it's a small percentage of error, these figures should open your eyes. According to my calculations, Joss Whedon has roughly 35 total minutes, asterisk, or close to 32% of new footage. Add his obviously glaring reshoots of nearly 16 minutes, or close to 14%, and Whedon's total contribution squeaks out at 50 total minutes, or close to 46% of Justice League. Comparatively, Zack has roughly 18 minutes, or close to 17% of the original footage not touched. Adding the tampered footage inserted by Joss Whedon, and you get another 41 minutes, or close to 38% of Zack Snyder footage in Justice League. The plot thickens. If I were to add up those scenes above and include the dialogue, things become thick milky. But using my figures, I was able to at least come up with a total of Whedon dialogue from his own footage, regardless if anyone was talking or not, and it totaled to roughly 34 minutes, or close to 31% of the entire film. Terrio and his untouched dialogue with Zack's footage totaled a mere 17 minutes, or close to 17% of the entire runtime. But what about the Snyder Cut? Well, Zack's footage equals a healthy figure of roughly 60 minutes, or close to 54% of the theatrical cut of Justice League. Regardless if the footage was tainted or not, there's something else we know. Zack's cut of Justice League is 214 minutes long. And when we look at his total runtime compared to that number, we have roughly 154 minutes, or close to 72% of unseen footage that we don't know about. 2 hours and 34 minutes are longer than some films in theater. The Snyder Cut of Justice League is truly a whole nother film, and that's shocking. The only question is, when will we see it? So, big eye opener for anybody who's like, we've seen most of Justice Snyder's stuff in Justice League, things like that. Apparently not. Apparently not. Almost half that movie is a Joss Whedon film, right? And maybe that's why it still says a Zack Snyder, because Zack Snyder shot most of the principal photography and most of that. But what you're forgetting is how much that was cut out. The movie was 214 minutes long. We only seen 60 minutes of it. There's 154, over 2 hours we have not seen. Over 2 hours we have not. 154 minutes is a movie in itself that we have not seen at all of Justice League. The Snyder Cut of Justice League is a different film. It's a larger film. It's an epic film. I know it. It's got to be an epic film. And we have not seen it. For anyone who is remotely even interested, wondering what the Snyder Cut is, it's a totally different film. And these numbers are such an eye-opener. For all the amount that Zack Snyder has shared, we've barely even scratched the surface of what the Snyder Cut is. Like, what we've not seen. I mean, and John Aaron and other people have always talked about, notice we haven't seen anything of Superman in the final battle. That is something. I mean, we've seen some in the theater, but mostly we haven't seen anything. Jay Oliva said he had worked on a lot of Superman stuff, and we have not seen any of it. So for people who are like, well, I don't really care for the Snyder Cut, but I want to see more Ben Affleck as Batman. I want to see Wonder Woman, get more Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, despite her movie coming out, more Aquaman, more Ezra Miller's Flash, more Superman, and my God, more Cyborg. If you're a huge Cyborg fan, then you should be fighting for this movie as well, because Cyborg was the heart of the film. He was more than the movie. They cut him out, possibly because Jeff Johns wanted to reserve Cyborg for his DC Universe streaming service. But in any case, there's more of each of these characters that you love. If you are waiting for a new Man of Steel sequel, why wait? There's a Snyder Cut right here, and it has a lot of Superman footage in it that we want to see, and hopefully we will get to see. So that's why we're keep fighting to get this Snyder Cut out, because it is a whole new film, and I believe that Warner Brothers can make big bucks out of this movie. All right, guys. Well, that is it for tonight. I want to thank you so much for subscribing. I want to thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.